For violin, for musical instruments, it's really, very highly skillful. Or, for tennis or for golf, any kind of sports, it's also very highly skillful things. So, for this kind of thing, I think 10,000 hours is not going to make someone master of something yet. It's the same thing that I said in every lesson. It's always practice, practice, practice. It's just full of tears and sweat and determination and discipline. There is just no shortcut to it.
Hey everyone, welcome to Girls Can, a series of podcasts created to help educate and inform young women throughout the world. Our goal is to empower and inspire the next generation because the girls of today become the future leaders of tomorrow.
Hey everyone, it's Abby. None of my sisters are in the studio today, so it's just me, but I'm so excited to have our guest in the studio, Enen Yu. Miss Yu, a native of China, is co-concert master of Mobile Symphony Orchestra and concert master for the Mobile Opera, Pensacola Opera, and Northwest Florida Ballet. In addition, she is the founder and violinist of the Archduke Piano Trio and performs music throughout the Gulf Coast region. Recently, she has been named an honoree of the inaugural class of 40 Under 40 of Mobile. I'm so excited to welcome Enen Yu and hear what she has to say about what it is like to be a professional musician, what it takes to get there, and what inspires her. Hey, Miss Enen, thank you so much for coming to the studio today. We are so happy to have you.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, how did you choose your profession and why did you?
I actually did not choose my profession. In China, parents pretty much, make up their mind what they want their children to be. And so when I was 7, my mom decided that, playing a violin it's art, it's music, and at that time China was just recovering from the Cultural Revolution, if you know what that is. She also thinks, having a skill, it's gonna, make my life better later. So she just sent me to violin lessons. And then once you get in it, you just have to continue. I wanted to quit, just like every other teenager, but she won't let me. So I just kept going, and I'm grateful that my mom made me practice every day. I really appreciate that how she helped me to grow into who I am today.
So you mentioned you went to violin lessons. What was your music education like?
I started 7, so I was taking private lesson once a week and, practicing every night. And at 7th grade is the middle school starts in China. So 6th grade, I went audition for the Shanghai Conservatory of Music in Guangzhou, which is, a metropolitan area in South China. So I got in, and from there, it's just music training all through the 6 years of middle and high school. It's boarding school too because it's not in my hometown. And I really miss those days because, teenagers love to
you have some awesome,
freedom and
awesome
make a lot of
memories.
friends. Yeah, that some great years.
Okay. So you mentioned you practicing a lot. So in the book Outliers, author Malcolm Gladwell says it takes roughly about 10,000 hours of practice to achieve mastery in a field. What's your opinion on this?
Well, I think it's more than that. For violin, for musical instruments, it's really, very high skillful. Or, for tennis or for golf, any kind of sports, it's also very highly skillful things. So, for this kind of thing, I think 10,000 hours is not going to make someone master of something yet. Much more than that.
So what advice would you give to young girls who wanted to become a professional musician?
It's the same thing that I said in every lesson. It's always practice, practice, practice. It's just full of tears and sweat and determination and discipline. There is just no shortcut to it.
Right. So work hard at everything that you do. What struggles did you face in the profession of a musician?
I still struggle. I still struggle to become a better player because, having so many master players, musicians out there, we listen to it all the time. And it's kind of a standard for us. And we just wanted to always pursue to be sounded that good. So sometimes it's still, it frustrates me that I couldn't be as good as I want to be. So that is something that I would struggle to.
I also know that you came from China, and so I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about that. What was it like coming into the U.S. and playing as a musician and teaching music?
This is, quite a topic because, first of all, the first impression when I got off the plane, I landed South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, and it's just like a city of size about Mobile. And I was in shock because I came from Beijing and, there are so many millions of people. It's people on top of people over there. And so when I got here, I was looking for people. Like, where are everybody? The reason I really chose to stay and live in the States is because there are less people and there are so much more personal space. I'm actually quite a private person, so I enjoy friends and families, and so I do go back to visit almost every summer, but about 2-3 weeks, I would have enough in China. Couldn't wait to come back to have my own space. I guess that's the initial shock. And then culturally, another shock was, I try to make friends, and then I attend, a lot of concerts, as many as I could when I was in school. And so I would go to my teachers or other faculty's concerts and recitals. And when I came out, and I would see my friends, Americans, they would say, "Good job" to the teachers. And I was like, really? That's not your place to say that to a teacher, is it? Apparently here, teachers and students relationship, it's much more friendlier versus in China, a teacher is a master. You have all the respect and you don't say anything back to the master. You do whatever the master says. And so it's very different relationship. So you're not supposed to say good job to a teacher because you are not at the level of complimenting your teacher, So that was a little bit of shock. And to continue on with that, the teacher-student relationship. So teachers here are much nicer, friendlier to students. And we learned that too. The favorite story of mine is Dr. Huang, my husband, who's a cellist, and we met at grad school. They have a cello studio master class once a week, which means, everybody in the cello studio will gather together and 2 or 3 students will perform and everybody will give comments. So at the beginning, he was not used to it because all he wanted to say is something that student not doing well, and he wants to, bring it up and tell him or her, and so they can, improve on that. There was one time that student cried.
Oh.
And so Dr. Huang's teacher back then, Dr. Jesus, and we'll call him into the office and said, "It's very nice that you wanted to give the comment right to the point. But it would always be nice to start something nice. Even if you couldn't think of anything nice about the playing, you can still say, wow, your cello is shiny."
Words of wisdom.
And he was jaw-dropping, speechless, didn't know what to say. But we do learn, from then on, even in my teaching, I always start with something nice to say or try to come up with something nice to say.
Right.
And then to the point. So that way a student would, maybe accept, whatever that I'm pointing out a little bit easier. Again, it's a huge difference.
Do you think there's any difference between music education in the United States versus music education in China?
It is very different. It's almost like sports. In China, a student study music, from very young age, and then you try to get into those, professional schools, conservatories. Just like sports, they started very early and get into those sports schools. and train through. And those schools are mostly, government sponsored schools. And it's very competitive to get in. But once you get in, if you're not a slacker, you could graduate and go directly into the professional field.
So what advice would you give to young girls who just came from a different country into the U.S.?
Well, it's going to take a little bit while to get adjusted for all the differences between the states and their country. But I mostly lived in the southern part of the states, and I think people southern are very nice, very nice, and I love them. And they are very, very welcoming. And you would have some difficulties, for example, language barrier.
Yes.
We do start English class from 4th grade, but, in a class setting, you just maybe speak 1 or 2 sentences a day versus when you come over here, you just have to try to make more friends and, have conversations and don't be shy and keep picking. If you couldn't find a word, you just find another word. And gradually you'll get better and people will understand you better. And people are very nice and they understand you come from another country. And so they won't pick on, what you're saying wrong. I still having hard time to say he or she sometimes or, was or were, that kind of thing. But that would be the most thing. But, just the beginning period, if you can get through it, you can make friends, it'll be good then.
What advice would you give to girls on time management?
Yes, time management, it's a big thing. I have a lot of students, especially high school students, who come into lesson and cry. And especially seniors or juniors, I would be like, they would tell me all the things that they're doing. I will be waiting. And one day they cry. I said, here, there is. I've been waiting. The biggest thing is that you need to know you only have 24 hours. You don't have 25. And a lot of young people like to do a lot of different things and ended up short in everything. So really find out priority. What's the priority? What is that you wanted to do most? And then you can shave off other things, other activities, and make that thing that you wanted to do it the best that you can.
In your bio, you mentioned that you are co-concert master in the Mobile Symphony. Can you tell us a little bit about that and your work there?
I actually came to Mobile because of Mobile Symphony. So I was in school and my teacher told me that there's an audition, there's opening here at Mobile Symphony for concertmaster and as well as a teacher, music teacher. So I came down and auditioned for the position. And at the same time, Jenny Gregor, who we became great friends, we both came for that position, and they decided they not only want one, but want two. So I moved down here for that, and I've been playing with the symphony for 17, 18 years by now. Yes. And I've been teaching for them their strings program and coaching for the youth orchestra. This year, I'm taking a year off because, after 17, 18 years of teaching, I feel like I need to take some time off so I can re-energize myself anytime that I'm ready to go back to teaching.
So what advice would you give to someone who is teaching a large group of students in general? In
general, patience. I mean, for my own experience, it's a lot of patience. And I have to think back when I was their age, I would act out, I would be rebellious and all that. And so, my teacher forgave me for a lot of wrongdoings. And so I will forgive these kids who, they still don't know what they're doing. So I try to be understanding and be patient with them.
So what music do you listen on a daily basis?
I actually listen to something lighter and soothing. I don't necessarily listen to symphony all day, every day. It's too strong and dramatic. I do listen to a lot of string players, like, Yo-Yo Ma has so many amazing albums that I enjoy. I particularly like to listen to those, drinking my morning coffee. Yeah, and some movie music, like, John Barry and, that kind of things. Yeah.
So who is your musician inspiration?
Wow. I have a lot, and I'm fortunate to have met and play some of them because, like Midori came 12 years ago. Midori is a world-renowned violinist. She's Japanese, and I think she is still in California. But I listened to her recordings growing up. And so when she came to Mobile, it was, such an amazing experience. It's like meeting my own hero. But I did already met, some other heroes of mine when I was back in Beijing, because, the conservatory is big. And Beijing is, it's the capital of China. And so they invited a lot of famous people, too. So Yo-Yo Ma is on top of the list. He is just such an amazing player, beautiful personality. I think if I wanted to be anybody, I wanted to be him.
Did you ever get to play with Yo-Yo Ma?
Actually twice. He actually came to Mobile twice. And we're so lucky to have played with him. He is the master of that cello. Some people are really born with it. I don't know if I said that, I still struggle with myself. Technically, I wanted to be better. I don't know if he struggles. I think every musician wants to be better, wants to play better every day. I know that is true. But at his level, I'm thinking he's perfect already. So, yeah, he's an inspiration.
Do you think that musicians are made or are they born?
Wow. I think some are born with it, some are made. Well, actually, it's just some people will have to work harder. But when you get to, a very high level, I think everybody would think that they are made because it's still, there is no end to it. I don't think Yo-Yo Ma think that he's perfect. I'm pretty sure he's thinking he still wants to be better. But in my eyes, he's already perfect.
It's amazing. Thank you so much for coming in. I've learned so much about you and the music profession and what it's like for coming into a new country.
Well, thank you for having me.
Anytime.
This has been Girls Can, a podcast and an organization dedicated to improving the lives of young women in our community.
We want to encourage young women to make a difference through education and service.
Because the girls of today become the future leaders of tomorrow. Because the girls of today become the future leaders of tomorrow.